Yes.
And okay, so e-invoice actually is a mandatory implementations by Malaysian government. Some of them they already started on 1st August. Those that you have more than 100 million. So we have a few customer already roll up. We have roll up for a few customer already. For those below 100 millions revenue a year, you are subjected to start on 1st January 2025. There are two options of e-invoice transmissions mechanism for those taxpayer, or we call it individual or company, to submit or validate e-invoice with the Lembaga Hasil Dalam Negeri, LHDN. Number one is LHDN had prepared a My Invoice portal, right? Already have prepared, and you can key in manually, key in manually into the My Invoice portal prepared by the LHDN. Okay, so that means you are actually required to key in one by one or submit. I think you can consolidate and submit to the My Invoice portal by LHDN. Subsequently, alternatively, the LHDN also giving us API or through the also SDK for us to integrate direct with the My Invoice portal. So we already done the API. That means the our solutions will connect directly to the LHDN My Invoice portal. That means you no need to key in manually lah. That means if you issue e-invoice from the PMS, IDB system, PMS, IDB POS or account receivable, you will transmit directly to the LHDN My Invoice system. Yeah. Now the APIs we are talking about, there is two major API. One is when we mentions that LHDN, Lembaga Hasil Dalam Negeri, okay, Inland Revenue, or we call it Inland Revenue Board Malaysia. They actually giving us SDK to connect to the B2G business to government portal. Yeah. So at the same time, IDB also created B2C platform. That means you can collect information from the consumer. Yeah, the consumer, or we call it a buyer. Of course, for hotel, you are calling your buyer as hotel guest. Yeah. There are another initiative by MDEC. MDEC, of course, they also encouraging accounting system and accounting system connectivity. I mean, either it's the ERP system or accounting system, they're able to transmit, or they call it exchange the data between accounting and accounting. Yeah, that is more to B2B, business to business accounting. And of course, you can go through a third-party system, which they also mentioned by ICN, is called PayPal Solutions. PayPal Solutions. Yeah, so that is called third-party middleware. All right, so I'm not sure how much is the PayPal Solutions. We heard is international standard. Yeah. Now, today we are actually focusing how IDB direct connect to LHDN. Now, hotel business, basically you deal with consumer. Yeah. I think 99% of your business transactions is dealing with hotel guests. The buyer that come to your hotel, stay in your hotel, and then they pay you money, right? Then you need to generate invoice to them. They also can request e-invoice from you. Yeah, or the guests come to your hotel, eating, right, or in your restaurant, consume food and beverages in your cafe, or or using a facility. You can issue e-invoice to them upon their request. Yeah, they can request an e-invoice from you. Okay, so now for IDB PMS system, understood that most customer, of course, for your hotel, you actually install PMS, POS, and account receivable. Yeah, so there are three major modules. You are actually connected to LHDN. So LHDN also cloud system, IDB also cloud system. So it's easier for us to do integrations because it's through the XML programming. Yeah, so this is good news that you have a cloud and cloud connectivity. There will be more seamless integrations. And of course, LGN had mentioned that between 2 seconds, they will return with you with the validated e-invoice by connecting to the API. That means instead of you key in manually in My Invoice Portal, you can straight away connected to LHDN, call up the system and then validate the invoice and generate an e-invoice from the ISDN and display to the buyer. Okay, so of course the type of invoice that we connected is you can have invoice, debit note, credit note, and refund note. So this is the documents that we are able to validate by LHDN, and at the same time you will be able to generate it from the system, from the IDB to produce to the buyer. The buyer will be your hotel guest. So it could be someone not staying in your hotel, come in to your restaurant and makan, eating, they ask for invoice also can. Yeah, so the 99% I believe that we are dealing with consumer. Yeah, that's the reason why we say B2C. So we are not focusing. Yeah, you are not focusing on the NDEC, yeah, the initiative by NDEC at the moment. Probably we are doing it later, not later. But most of the concern, your challenges will be the connectivity IDB with LHDN. All right. So now, I repeat again, for My Invoice Portal, that means if you're doing manually, that means when you issue an invoice from the IDB, that is not e-invoice, right? You issue a folio or issue a receipt from the POS system. If you do manually, that means you require to go to the My Invoice Portal, key in that folio or the invoice in My Invoice Portal and generate e-invoice. Validate and generate. Okay, that's the word. You need to validate by LHDN. So if you use API, that means sekali kerja lah, one-time job only. That means from the system, you generate e-invoice. That e-invoice is already validated by LHDN and comply with e-invoice rulings format. All right, so now let's see at the major, there's two scenario, right? So if the buyer required an invoice, right? That means if the hotel guest asks you to issue an invoice, the scenario is when the hotel guests come to your hotel. If the guests come to your hotel, they stay in your hotel. So it's the responsibility the hotel to ask whether Mr. Buyer, guest, Mr. Hotel guest, do you want to have e-invoice? So there might be some SOP changes, your standard operating procedure. Like I go to Philippines, for example, I go to stay hotel in Manila. So because IDB, we also expanding our business to Philippines. So whenever we stay in the hotel, before we check out, that means we check in, the front office staff already asking us, sir, do you want to have e-invoice? Yeah, that is to minimize the queue, right? When you will do a checkout, by the time if you check out, you ask the guest, do you want to have e-invoice? Then probably there will be a long queue because there are some processes you need to do before you issue an e-invoice. Yeah. Now, today our session is more on the technology updates. We are not teaching you on e-invoice. We are not updating you e-invoice rulings, regulations. We are IDB. We are not a tax consultant. Okay, so our responsibility, for those maybe first time seeing me, I'm Desmond. Okay, I'm the head of departments for sales department. Yeah, for IDB. So I'm in charge of the sales and marketing department. Now, I'm not a tax agent. I'm not here to teach you the tax ruling. So if you not sure about the e-invoice ruling, you have to go. You have to ask your own the tax consultant or your tax agent, yeah, right? So if you're not sure, not sure of you need clarifications, you can contact LHDN directly. Yeah. So today our session is just talking about the system. So the API built in IDB system. Yeah. So after API built, then of course, what is a function that you can use in the IDB hotel management solution? Now come back to the scenario here. That means you need to ask the guest whether you need e-invoice or not. So if the guest say yes, I need e-invoice, yes, then you need to collect a few important informations. The major with two informations is the name and the TIN number. TIN number stands for tax identification number. All right. So you can test it out. You can go to Family Mart now or any mall, 7-Eleven. You buy something, you realize that the bill that they generated, there is a QR code, or they don't ask you this question. They don't ask. They assume you you will request this e-invoice yourself or fill in this e-invoice yourself. Yeah. So this is what happening in Family Mart or outside, or retail shop. But even though now the government allow us to have 6-month grace period, that means adoptions period, whether we done it correctly or not correctly, there's no penalty at the moment. Yeah, so a lot of business still adapting the e-invoice. Now, the major informations that you need to collect is name, TIN number. Yeah. So if company, of course, you need to collect more information like company address number, contact number. Yeah, sorry, some typo error. Email address. Now, email address, to be frank, for me, myself, is a very important or compulsory information, because the reason being, I don't know why certain, when we saw actually, because there are a lot of systems up there, we saw some POS system. Sometimes they don't put email as compulsory, because for my personal point of view, because we believe that email is compulsory, because there is the ruling in the LSDN stated that the government, the LSDN My Invoice Portal, will send an email to the buyer and the seller once the invoice issue for you to validate, for you to do checking again. Yeah, a validated invoice. I must use the correct word because the word is actually came up from the rulings of the e-invoice. A validated e-invoice will have to send to buyer and seller to check, to do checking, because the buyer can reject, can request for amendment once they issue. So there is a reason why my personal point of view, email is compulsory. But however, most of the system which I saw probably is just name and TIN number. These two number is compulsory. Yeah. So there's on and off. The LHDN still can or able to change the rulings upon the scenario. Whenever there's an actual requirement changes, probably there will be some changes from LHDN. We are not sure. Yeah. So at the moment, this is the ruling: name and TIN number. Yeah. All right. So now, and then the hotel were able to issue e-invoice. So now how you issue e-invoice? Just now we mentioned there's two ways. Number one, you manually log in to the My Invoice Portal. It's just like you go to Facebook, you go to X, we call it Twitter, or last time, log in, and then you key in like a form. Yeah. After you issue in the normal folio from the system. Yeah. Now, but you can issue an e-invoice directly from IDB PMS system or POS system, or from account receivable directly by calling the button that we created. Yeah, we call it e-invoice, print e-invoice button. Yeah, there's a button we're going to update in your system. Upon you sign up, you need to sign up this e-invoice module from the IDB in order for you to get this API integrations with LSDN. Now, It means once you call that button, you're able to generate the invoice. Now, between 2 seconds, of course, between 2 seconds is the ideal time. The LHDN will able to validate the information that you key in, buyer name, buyer TIN number, blah, 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 address, whatever. And of course, with your seller name, seller TIN number, your seller address, blah, 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 then they display, yeah, the format, the invoice format, and you're able to print up straight away. And at the same time, the buyer and the seller email will receive that, it will be notified. The word is called notified, will be notified by LHDN that there is a transactions, yeah, there is a transactions go through. Now, then you ask me, the guest, why they ask for the e-invoice? Probably for their claim purposes. If they are individual, they want to use this to claim like income tax, yeah, rebates or whatever, I'm not sure. Yeah, so you have to refer to tax ruling. And so of course, it's company, let's say I stay on IDB, so I use a corporate rate, whatever. So I need to bring this e-invoice back to IDB, my office, to claim these expenses. We call it proof of expenses. So we need to have this proof of expenses. So only e-invoice is a proof of expenses. Yeah. So once 1st January 2025, if you subjected to implement mandatory on e-invoice, the only way you can claim the expenses is to produce e-invoice to your finance department. Yeah. Normal invoice receipt is not claimable. I'm not sure whether claimable or not. Sorry, I'm not tax agent. So I heard still able. Yeah, I'm not sure when the government will set the rulings, maybe 2026, 2027 or 28. They say, no more. Stop it. It's only e-invoice. We don't know. So probably the rules will keep changing along the way, along the years. We're not sure. So at the moment, the terms is e-invoice as a proof of expenses for tax purposes. Okay, I have to use exactly the words that the rulings. Yeah, so the buyer will use the e-invoice as a proof, and of course, you as a seller, you have to prove your income as well. Yeah, you have to generate generate reports to LHDN to prove this is your income. Okay, so I hope that sitting down there, their account staff from financial controller, accounting staff, that you understand my explanation. So if you have any inquiry later, you can ask me. Yeah, let's look at scenario number 2. Yeah, scenario number 2. If the buyer say, I don't need e-invoice, so you ask the questions. Your front office staff, your cashier in the restaurant, cafe, you ask a question. So do you want to have invoice? He said no need. Okay, no, I don't need. Just normal issue invoice. So you need to issue a normal invoice or normal folio. Okay, so what the accounts department can do, you still need to prove your income. As we say, the seller need to prove income. Okay, that means you need to consolidate all the invoice, all the normal receipt or folio or invoice to become a e-invoice at month end. Yeah. So after a month end, the ruling is 7 days after the month end, you need to consolidate all those receipt or folio and submit to LHDN as e-invoice. That means you still need to submit. Yeah. So it's whether the guest asks you, I want to e-invoice. So you there and there you issue an e-invoice. All right. So if the guest say no, I don't want. So you still need to issue invoice and notify LHDN. All right. Now, how you do that? Now, imagine the start of scenario number 1. Maybe whole month, whole month there is 1,000 guests. 1,000 guests that request for invoice. So you have 1,000 e-invoice already in your system. All right. Okay. Imagine you have 100,000 guests in the whole month. So there's 99,000 of them did not ask for invoice. 99,000, they did not ask. So you need to compile the 99,000, the normal receipt that you generate, to become a consolidated e-invoice or consolidate e-invoice to submit to LHDN. Yeah, so this is the ruling. So hotel will need to submit consolidate e-invoice to LHDN. All right. So the 99 in receipt or 99 normal folio will become a consolidate. Now, just now we're talking about notifying seller and buyer. So if you do this step, the LHDN will only validate and notify the seller. The LHDN will not notify the buyer because the buyer did not request for it. Okay? So that means the seller or the hotel can use this e-invoice to prove your income. The buyer cannot use the receipt or folio to prove their expenses. Okay, so this is the most basic ruling, the most basic. So there are so many rulings, right? There will be a case of the buyer reject, the buyer cancel, or of course, we are talking about the rulings of sharing the invoice, notifying. Just now we did mention about how the LHGN notified you using the my invoice port sorry, not my invoice, the email. Of course, buyer and seller can log into the my invoice portal to check and to get that e-invoice back, to view the transactions. Okay, so now there are other scenario, right? You say if the buyer reject, they can do it between 72 hours. 72 hours. Bukan 3 hari, 72 hours, not 3 days. So that is the ruling. So now, if the guest request for rejections, all these things, then there will be, we'll go through this detailed scenario during the training. So we will conduct trainings. Once you sign up the new module, IDB e-invoice module, our consultant, our trainer will teach you how to use the system and go through the scenario review. Yeah, so how to perform cancellation, how to reissue the e-invoice, yeah, all these things. How do you check all these things? So there will be other scenario. So this chart is actually from the LHDN portal. You can get this chart from the LHDN. Yeah. Now, there will be scenario that before you start this e-invoice submission, in order for you to incorporate the e-invoice module connect to LHDN, you need to get a digital certificate. Yeah. Or inside the digital certificate, there will be digital signature. Okay, there's signature, some coding you can purchase from MCMC. Yeah, all these the links that I attached here. And if you want to know more detail, you can visit hasil.com, hasil.gov.my, and all this is your guideline. So probably the guideline it keep changing. This link probably will not be, is already renewed because we have prepare this slide before 1st August. For some of our customer, they already roll up. Okay, for we have one customer of course already roll up with Angkasa under the UDA land. So now this guideline could be changed. Yeah, could be changed along the way. Yeah, so please be aware of all these changes. So you need to purchase, and according to our information, you need to renew every year. Yeah, the digital certificate. Now the digital certificate have to given to us IDB before you start using the module, and of course to submit your invoice. All right, that is a basic requirement. Yeah, so certificate. So it will be on the coding. Yeah, it's on the coding on the CER and PFZ. It's a document. Now this is a sample screen to let you see so now during the collections of informations of the buyer information, we call it a B2C At the moment, we are actually done it in the PMS, POS, and AR, account receivable. So there you can speak to the buyer, that whether they are company, individual, army, or foreigner. Yeah, so they have to give you a TIN number, okay, name, okay, right. So the compulsory field probably will change. Yeah, so to be frank, some, of course, when we do these presentations, some customer did ask, Desmond, SST not compulsory lah. Yeah, we will remove as a non-compulsory, no issue. So the compulsory one is name and TIN number. But if you go to Family Mart now, I'm not sure whether they have changed. Their collections of information from consumer, they put a QR code on the receipt. They did not ask you whether you want or not. You want, you will just scan the QR code and then you fill up the form yourself. Okay, that is retail. That is retail. But to be frank, we are not. My personal opinion, you shouldn't do this in hotel. Because imagine, I throw this receipt in the dustbin, someone pick up, then they can claim already. Yeah, so I think it's not that proper lah. So we are not Family Mart, we are not 7-Eleven, so we don't use that particular mode of collecting informations. We are still brainstorming. There are some other new ideas. So along the way, if there's a new things, we will incorporate it into the whole things for you. So once you sign up, there's only one price. You sign up as, of course, our pricing later, I will share with you how's our pricing look like. Okay, now this is how you collect the information. Okay, collect the information. Now, of course, the other screen is how you console it. Yeah, so we also will update a new screen once you sign up IDB E-invoice in our system. You will get additional one screen is called E-invoice Documents Ledger. Then you can do a submission. We're talking about you can do a consolidation, you can do a check-in. Yeah, you can reconcile this screen with the My Invoice Portal screen. Yeah, you can check against this screen. All right.